So we will continue. The value of any benefit or perquisite, whether convertible into money or not, arising from the business or profession. Like you have in salary. In salary we had perquisites, amenities, facilities, benefits given by an employer to an employee, which are non-monetary. I discussed with you free stay in a house provided by the employer, free use, personal use of car maintained and provided by the employer. These are examples of perquisites which are chargeable to tax as salary income. Now come to this case. We are discussing business income now. Some similarities may exist. This is the similarity here. When you are doing a business, the benefit or perquisite which you may receive, here it says whether convertible into money or not, meaning it can be received in kind. It may be convertible into money. At times it may not be convertible into money. But if it is a benefit or a perquisite given to you, which is arising from your business or the profession, it will be simply brought to tax as business or profession income. Let me give you an illustration. You are, let us say, a lawyer. You have been representing your clients. Now you have won a case, for a very important case for one of your clients. He is very happy with you. He tells you, what is your fees? You say 1 lakh rupees. He gives you 1 lakh rupees. Over and above that 1 lakh rupees, he gives you 25,000 rupees. You have never asked for 25,000 rupees. He gives you by himself. The issue is, will that 1 lakh rupees is your fees? A professional fees received by a lawyer is essentially chargeable to tax under the head business income, matlab profits and gains of business or profession. That is the fees which you receive. What about gratuitous payment? 25,000 for which you haven't rendered any service. It flows to you in the exercise of your profession. It results into a benefit to you. It is check of 25,000 rupees. So that benefit arising from profession is also, government says 28(4), section 28 clause 4 says that this is your income under the head business. As I told you, the popular name is business income. Even profession income is popularly known as business income for the purpose of understanding. So profits and gains of business or profession. Let us take another case, perquisite. Again, the client is very happy. He tells you, okay, 1 lakh rupees, I am giving you your fees. Over and above that, he gives you, let us say, a small camera costing 25,000 rupees. A camera costing 25,000 rupees. You have never asked for that. He knows that you have inclinations of photography. You are a good photographer also. He knows that. So he gives you a gift of camera, a professional camera, 25,000 rupees is the value, worth of that. He hasn't given you a check by which you purchase this camera of 25. No. He gives you the camera, a perquisite, a benefit in kind, a perquisite. Are you getting this? So this is a perquisite given to you, flowing to you from the exercise of your profession. Now, it may be convertible into money, you may sell it. It may not be convertible into money, you don't intend to sell it, you want to use it for your photography hobby or vocation. But since it flows to you from your professional activities, for your professional acumen, professional skill, professional expertise, it will be included in your business income, chargeable to tax in your hands. Take another case. You are a lawyer getting married. I am not on the number of marriage, first marriage, second marriage, you are just getting married. Now your clients may give you some gift in the marriage. This client for whom you have won a case is very happy, he gives you 5 lakh rupees marriage gift. You may say this is a gift received from the same client and he has given it to you because you have won a case. That is right. But the occasion is marriage. So gifts received on marriage, even from your clients, there is a specific non-taxability. It is not included in income. Section 56 to 10, 56 subsection 2 clause 10. It will not be included in income. So marriage gifts are specifically excluded. Marriage gifts from clients, there are other gifts also which are not included in income, which I will discuss later when I do 56, income from other sources. Since these were identical issues, therefore I thought I should discuss that with you. So when you receive a gift from your client, not in the course of your profession, but on a personal occasion like marriage, that gift is exempt, not chargeable to tax. But a gift from the same client in the course of your profession, business income. Please understand this very well. I have discussed this clause 5 earlier. Interest, I think I have discussed this earlier. Any interest, salary, bonus, commission, remuneration by whatever name called. I have discussed whatever name called earlier also, sometime in the earlier classes. When they say whatever name called, it doesn't refer to your name, Mr. A or B or Mr. C or D, whatever it is. It is not referring to your name, it is referring to the name that you may assign to the nature of the payment that you receive. If it is interest, salary, bonus, commission, remuneration, by whatever name called. It may be stated as excellency bonus, excellent because you have excelled in a particular field, you are given that bonus. So you call it by any name. If it meets the conditions, meets the meaning of the terms appearing in clause 5, interest, salary, bonus, commission, remuneration. It may be fees by whatever name called. Fees is not included here, but even if you receive fees as a partner from the partnership concern, that will be included in your hands as business income. If you remember, we have discussed a few days back that salary received by a partner is an exception. When I say exception, what I meant was that salary received by a partner, though it is salary, the head of income chargeable is not salary in the hands of partner. The income is chargeable to tax in his hands under the head business income. This is exactly what it is referring to. Salary, bonus, commission, remuneration, whatever name called. I'll come to interest a little later. Salary, bonus, commission, remuneration, fees, whatever name called, received by a partner from his partnership concern is business income. Come to interest. Now you are a partner. You may have contributed capital. Now when you contribute capital, you may charge interest to the partnership firm. The partnership firm may pay you interest. So that interest which you receive will be brought to tax in the hands of partner under the head business income. It will not be other source income, it will be business income. This is important. 5A. It has two clauses, sub clauses rather. Section 28, clause 5A has two sub clauses, 1 and 2, which I will discuss. This is largely referring to non-compete clause. Now, let us say you are working for a company and you are a very skilled worker. The company doesn't want to leave you, but somehow you want to now leave the company. You want to start your own business, for example, and you want to start your own business in the very same city or in the very same locality in which this company is located. So the company is a little afraid that when you start business, since you are very good at your job, good at your work, the customers may not be maintained by it. Customers may come to you or it may suffer. New customers may not come to it, to the company. So it tells you, ठीक है, here is your 10 lakh rupees. Do not carry any activity in relation to business or profession. The related business that you want, the business that you want to be in, the company tells you, okay, this is 10 lakh rupees. Whatever was due to you, we have paid. I am giving you 10 lakh rupees. Don't do this business, let us say, in Dadra, where you are located. You say, fine, I will not do this business in Dadar. I will go to Dombivli to do this business. The company says, okay, we have no problem. There you can do the business, but don't come to Dadar. Non-compete clause. Any sum, whether received or receivable, in cash or kind, it can be in kind as well, under an agreement for not carrying any activity in relation to business or profession. Now please understand, you had to carry on a business that the company was in which you were working. Now you are abstaining. You are not carrying on that business in the locality of Dadar, where you are staying, where this company also is located. So the company tells you, fine, don't do this. I will give you 10 lakh rupees. So what you are getting, some receipt under an agreement not to carry on business, is your business income chargeable to tax under the head business. Section 28, clause 5A, subclause 1. Likewise, I will specifically draw your attention to these. Subclause 2. Now you have certain expertise. I will read that intangible asset, expertise which you may have. It may be know-how, it may be a patent. I am taking you through these words very carefully because we will use it once again in depreciation, section 32. You may have know-how, you may have a patent or a copyright, trademark, license, franchise, or any other business or commercial right of similar nature. Up to here only. This is what is relevant even for depreciation. We will do this when we do depreciation. I would repeat, you have know-how, patent in your name, copyright, trademark, license, franchise, or any other business or commercial right of a similar nature. Each word is important. They take the color from each other. Business or commercial right of a similar nature related to know-how, patent, copyright, trade, license, franchise. Now you have that know-how, or you have that patent or a copyright which you can use, or a trademark or a license or a franchise which you can use, or a business or commercial right of a similar nature which you can use in your business. But the company tells you, your competitor tells you, don't share this with anybody. You may not share it with us, is a different question, but don't share it with anybody. Or you have given it to us, don't give it to anybody else for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. I will pay you 25 lakh rupees. You say okay. You don't share it with anybody else. You have given it to them. Know-how, patent, copyright, trademark, license, franchise, or any other business or commercial right of similar nature. You don't give. You get 25 lakh rupees. That is your business income. Non-compete clause, as it is popularly known as. I will read the balance part. Information or tech, this is not relevant, this is not present in depreciation. Therefore, I wanted to distinguish. Or commercial right of similar nature. Information or technique likely to assist in the manufacture or process of goods or provision of services. Whatever knowledge, know-how you have, or information or technique which is likely to help in the manufacture or processing of goods or services. So you don't share, you keep it with you. That will be considered to be your income, business income, chargeable to tax in your hands. Keyman insurance policy. You should be aware that these days we have Keyman insurance policies. Now, Keyman insurance policies are typical insurance policies. LIC has been selling these policies left, right, and center. Once they know that you are in business, they will approach you. Insurance policy le lo, Keyman insurance policy le lo. They will tell you there are n number of advantages in it. Keyman. You may be a partnership firm where you are one of the key partners. You are the key partner. Let us say all the business is done by you. So the insurance company may sell this insurance policy. May sell this insurance policy to you. I am not going into those details. Now, when it sells the policies to you, or when it allots the policy to you, somebody will have to pay premium. Who will pay the premium? The company will pay the premium. Let us say your partnership firm will pay the premium. Okay, it pays the premium. Now that is debited to the profit and loss account. Premium that it pays, it is paid on the policy of a partner who is a key man. Key man is important person. Key, important person of the organization. So the premium which you pay is debited by the partnership firm to the profit and loss account. So when it debits the premium paid to the profit and loss account, it is claiming that as an expense. So tomorrow, supposing generally Keyman insurance policies are given after when the policy may be allotted to the key person, or on the expiry of the key person, the company will get the policy amount back. So let us take a case, a partner who is a key person, in his favor, the company, the partnership firm has taken a Keyman insurance policy, and that partner expires. So the company or the partnership firm gets the policy amount from the insurance company. Let us say the policy amount was 20 lakhs. The company, the partnership firm, gets 20 lakhs Keyman insurance premium policy maturity. So that amount would be charged to tax in the hands of the company. Amount received upon death of the Keyman will be brought to tax in the hands of the partnership firm as its business income. Section 28, clause 6. This clause 6A is a very important insertion introduced about 2 years back. Earlier, I will have to give you a little history before I go to clause 6A. Earlier, we had a clear provision of a capital asset. We have discussed what is a capital asset, section 2, clause 14. A capital asset being converted into stock in trade. There was a clear provision in income tax section 45, whereby this conversion of capital asset into stock in trade, we have a clear provision, will be brought to tax. I will discuss the details of this taxability when I do that capital gains. I don't want to confuse you. There is a very interesting Supreme Court judgment by Shirin Bai Kuka. Very interesting judgment. I think 86 the judgment was pronounced. By Shirin Bai Kuka. The government had lost, and then it had come out with an amendment in the act. Capital asset converted into stock in trade. This provision was introduced post Shirin Bai Kuka judgment. Now they have introduced, I think 2 years back, this in section 28, clause 6A. Exact reverse case. By Shirin Bai Kuka was capital asset into stock in trade. Shares held as capital asset, investments were converted by her into stock in trade. Now this is an exact reverse case. You are holding certain inventory, stock in trade, and that is converted into capital asset. Exact reverse case. Let me take a simple case. Inventory, your stocks, you convert into capital asset. Stocks, shares, you may be holding as inventory, but you are aware, as I have discussed with you earlier, that capital asset share, when sold, results into taxability of the gain at a lesser rate of income tax as compared to the gain if the same share were to be treated as stocks, inventory. When you are holding shares as stocks or inventories, the income, the gain will be chargeable under the head business income. That suffers 30% tax rate. Long-term capital gain suffers lesser rate of tax. Short-term capital gain also suffers lesser rate of tax. So you may convert your inventory, which is your stock in trade. You are in the business of shares, purchase and sell on a daily basis. So now you convert that inventory, your stocks, into capital asset. Section 2, clause 14. Now it is a capital asset. Gain will be chargeable on sale of a capital asset at a lesser rate. If it is short term, 15%, long term, 10%. So then the law says, clause 6a, fair market value of the inventory as on the date on which it is converted. The fair market value of the inventory as on the day on which it is converted will be considered to be your income. We will try to take an illustration based on this when it will become still more clear. When I do capital gains, I will try and compare this provision with the reverse provision, conversion of capital asset into stock in trade by Shirin by Kuka. The fair market value. What is the fair market value? The market value prevalent on the date of conversion. The fair market value. If you were to sell the shares in the market, what would have been the realized amount? That is the fair market value, market price. On the date of such conversion or treated as capital asset in the prescribed manner. Of course, they are prescribing the manner which is not a part of your syllabus. The manner prescribed is not a part of Rule 11 UA, capital UA is what is otherwise the issue for valuation. So just understand, just remember, when you are converting your stock into capital asset, there is taxability in accordance with the manner prescribed by the law, which manner is not a part of your syllabus. Now one of the most important slides, I will have to compare. I think I will have to record another lecture because I won't be able to finish this. This will take me 15-20 minutes. I will go to another lecture.